Ayn Rand defined art as a selective recreation of reality according to the artist's metaphysical value judgments. And we've seen many people selectively recreate reality in with the pretense of reporting from Gaza. Recent story that has been super popular, not yet an Amazon bestseller in the nonfiction category, is the story of the 15 completely innocent medics who, for no reason whatsoever, were shot by the IDF multiple times because that's what Jews do, apparently. Um, so there are pieces to the story that have been reported. There are pieces that have kind of come out but have not been reported in mainstream news because it would affect this narrative. The story needs to be told in a certain way to invoke certain emotions and inspire certain actions. That is the goal of reporting from the Middle East to get you involved in the war against Israel. There is no other way to explain why this is how things like this are reported. We've covered this before. We're covering it again today. Welcome to the Daily Objective. I'm Razi Ginsburg. I'm joined by Daniel Kraus. Daniel, your initial thoughts on things that have come out recently that, again, this story is still being reported and it completely ignores in almost every media outlet that I've seen, certainly in the West, completely ignores uh, some aspects of it. And we'll get to those, of course.
Well, we don't actually know what has happened, but we are reporting that Israel has just deviously and demonically shot up a bunch of medics. I mean, the biggest thing is, or the sort of the something I thought about is how differently things are being reported when something is done by Israel and when something is done by Hamas. I mean, whenever Israel supposedly does something, we sort of immediately know what has happened. We immediately are blaming Israel, are demanding independent investigations. All in all, I mean, I think the Red Crescent is, demanding the UN Security Council to do an independent investigation. But yeah, when Hamas does something, you simply don't hear, or you don't hear it in the same regard. And this amount of um, like different kind of two-siding, I mean, it is truly, like, you can see it. It is truly revealing, and it truly shows the sort of the different aspects of this. I mean, again, when this video came out, pretty much it doesn't make sense with everything. Again, because you have uh, it. It reminds me of a like a scene from Jack Reacher. It's like, yeah, you have this like this IDF soldiers who are apparently schizophrenic. Like, on one way there are these like cold killers completely annihilating these people, knowingly killing medics, and then they call up the UN and say where they buried the bodies. Uh, that's like the whole thing is ridiculous, and we can go into some of the more stuff. And yeah, and the fact that, yeah, this, as with all things, it has been decided very quickly what Israel has done, and that Israel has lied. Which, again, even if you check the sort of the early reporting we got from the IDF and what we've seen on the video, they don't really depart that much.
Yeah. Uh, the IDF also arrested one of them and then released him. It is very interesting how bad Israel is at doing supposedly what we hear they're doing from the media. And so this is a big part of the main part of what's being reported here is what we see in that video, and we've gone through that video, the minute and a half, however long it is that there is actual footage, and then the rest is audio. Now there are several questions to be raised just from that video that have been raised, but not by any mainstream media that I've seen this in, certainly in the UK. Nobody is talking about this. So One of the things we see is at some point in the footage, we see one of the people, one of the supposed medics, leaving an ambulance with what appears to be a gun. Um, Now it's dark. I don't know 100% that it's a gun. It looks very much like a gun, but yeah, that's a question to ask. And yeah, Daniel, we have that picture, right? You can show it. Um, and again, this is a question to be raised. It's not raised. Nobody says, "Hey, is it possible that this was a gun?" Now, this is one of the questions to be raised here. Another question to be raised is the gunshots, and I don't know if we're gonna maybe hear some of this, but one thing that was raised is the gunshots are not consistent in the sound of them. So there is a possibility that there was a gunfight there, and that also is not even being reported to be refuted, not even being reported as, look, some on the Israeli side say this, but blah blah blah. They don't want to discuss that possibility, and that raises the question, why do you not want to discuss whether there maybe is even the slightest possibility that this is not Jewish bloodlust?
Uh, yeah, and there are a lot of questions that we still sort of don't have the answers. I mean, I still haven't seen anybody answering if this convoy did actually coordinate with the IDF. That's what you're supposed to do in Gaza. That's one of the things IDF has said from the start. That is something that is not debunked by the video because that is something that would happen before, and that is not something anybody cared to actually ask. Um, I don't know if I don't know if the coordination would come directly from Red Crescent or sort of more locally, but nobody's saying anything. Nobody is even again reporting or asking question. Nobody is saying, well, they didn't actually coordinate. Which again, like, even if you think that what Israel did here was horrible or sort of was out of question or was not supposed to happen, you should still be interested in the idea if they coordinated. I mean, if I don't like IDF has not sort of finished the second investigation yet, although they did say this was some kind of mistake happened here, and that's what they oftentimes say when they screw up. But again, this like when it comes to any I don't want to make a case for international law again, but when it comes to international any kind of international law, when it comes to sort of armed conflicts, there are always demands from both sides, and one of the sides, Hamas, or specifically if we're talking about aid workers, one of the things they have to do is make sure they are properly you can recognize them and make sure they are not terrorists in those convoys when you use them. And this has happened in the past again and again when Hamas is using healthcare sort of like aid convoys or aid uniforms to hide terrorists. And at some point, yeah, IDF is going to be suspicious about every single of those convoys, and you cannot expect to I mean, not to mention using aid trucks as terrorists is an actual war crime. You cannot expect committing war crimes and that not backfiring, even in some kind of mistake, which I'm not sure is exactly what has happened here, because fundamentally I don't believe any sort of aid should be allowed or should be coordinated with the IDF. This should not have happened because there simply shouldn't be any sort of aid trucks going into Gaza or moving around Gaza. Israel should completely take over and then institute their own uh, policy of distributing aid or whatever that would include.
Yeah. Now, generally speaking, any reporting on this war that doesn't put it immediately into context, Hamas started this on October 7th with a terrorist attack, slaughtering 1,200 Jews, taking 200 or 1,200 people, taking 251 hostages, torturing them, promising to do this again and again until there are no more Jews left to kill, and is continuing this war that Israel has, a standing offer to end as soon as Hamas ends its part, i.e., releases the hostages that they took to start this war and lays down its arms. This should be a part of the reporting always. If you're reporting the news, and again, that's not evaluative, it's factual. It's, I've said I don't agree with Israel on this. I don't think they should stop the war if Hamas surrenders and releases the hostages. But that is Israel's policy, so that always needs to be mentioned. But yeah, specifically with ambulances, yeah, an ambulance in Gaza, since we have seen it being used to transport terrorists, to transport weapons, an ambulance is more suspicious than a regular car because of this very reason. Because if it was a regular car, yeah, it would be in the news and we would hear about it, but it would not be in the news for 3 weeks. And we would not hear that Israel is killing medics. We would hear that Israel is killing innocent civilians, as we always do. So, yeah, this is somebody said this here very well. Yeah, El Rito says their strategy is using our values against us. That is exactly what it is. And I'd say their strategy is not just Hamas, it's the Palestinians and their advocates in the West.
Yeah, and when it comes to another question that is not answered, I mean, the whole thing about uh, the gunfight took like over 5 minutes, and that's when the video ends. So I cannot even, I'm not even sure if that would mean that's when it actually ended, which is sort of another question where, again, we cannot really claim any sort of knowledge in this scenario. We weren't there, and the video speaks very little. But the fact that this would take like, so what did Israel know they're attacking a completely defenseless medic convoy, and it took them minutes upon minutes and a lot of shootouts. Like, were they just, did they have like spare ammo, so they were just shooting for fun just to see what happens, or if you go to the video, you can hear, and you talked about it, you can hear 2 to 3 sort of separate like sounds when it comes to the kind of ammunition or the kind of gun that is being shot. So again, this engagement would, not an expert, but would take much shorter if actually this was sort of an unarmed convoy. The fact that it took so long could speak of something else, but this is not something anybody is asking, and nothing nobody even wants to care to entertain.
Yeah, and on the question, are they shooting for fun? Well, if you're taking mainstream coverage of this war at its word, yes, that's what Jews do. They shoot at people for fun. And again, so much of this is reminiscent of uh, you know, how stuff happened in the previous century and how we got to that point. And of course, we're gonna do more about that because it's important to know the history and where we're headed with this. Thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says, I bet the medics were Hamas. Possibly, it doesn't matter. The question isn't whether or not they were Hamas, because there are terrorists who are not Hamas, and it's not even, it doesn't even matter. I mean, a suspicious vehicle is enough for the IDF to justify the IDF shooting if there's any possible risk to any soldier. So yeah, or of course any risk of them going on and carrying out terrorist attacks or rocket launches, which still happen. So yeah, thank you, PC, for another super chat. PC says, Razi, the world press will always go against Israel. Yes, and this channel will always hold them to account. And thank you, PC, for another super chat. PC says, UN Secretary General is pro-Hamas, worst holder of that office since Kurt Waldheim. It's a tough tough competition as for who is worse, but yeah, they're all horrible, and this one is also very much a product of his time, and he fit right into that role. Immediately after the massacre on October 7th, he said it didn't happen in a vacuum. His immediate response was to justify the slaughter of, yes, women and children, but Jewish women and children, men, and and the most horrific atrocities, because the Palestinians are the real victims of this, if we are to believe the UN.
Yeah, someone in the chat says that Israel is looking into it, but asserts that forces didn't try to hide the accident and denied that any executions took place. I mean, that's also another narrative, is that yeah, they were executed, they were all sort of shot, just one shot in the head, possibly from behind. Uh, which again doesn't really fit with the video and with the recollections. I mean, again, there's so many questions, yet everybody seems to already know what happened because it's Israel, because they have a certain view of Israel that sort of fits with the way this is going. Now, I've seen some people, both here and sort of overall, talk about that one medic. I think the one who was recording said Allah Akbar a couple of times, which I don't know enough about like Arabic culture, but I would assume it's something you would even sort of say normally if you think you might be dying. It's not just, like a terrorist calling or anything among that. So I don't think that is necessarily completely disqualifying or in any way. I assume most of them are religious. So I think he even did some sort of a prayer or some sort of like saying, which I think would also completely fit with that. And even according to IDF, they say 6 of them were Hamas members. So we don't know what people were there. The rest, 9 of them. We don't know if specifically the guy who was recording was a Hamas member. But still, IDF is saying there were Hamas members among them, and there are not anymore because they got rid of them as they should have.
So there's an interesting thread about this on X, Daniel. If you can post that in the chat. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's and I don't necessarily agree with all of it because it's more conclusive than I think the evidence we currently have should lead us to be. But I will read the first tweet and look into it a bit. So this is this is Cheryl. Cheryl wrote it on X. This is a big pro-Israel account. A thread about the Red Cross paramedics video. So over the last 2 days, the Red Cross released a video that was over 6 minutes long, which they state was recorded on a phone of one of the paramedics killed by the IDF in late March. The video was sent to the New York Times, who published an article claiming the IDF lied and executed the paramedics from close range in cold blood. I'm going to show you that the Red Cross, the New York Times, and the media, and multitude of propagandists who have pushed this story are lying. The vast majority of the account given by the IDF is accurate. Now, she also goes through parts of the video and has some commentary on that. But what is interesting is that she said, and this is in the third and fourth tweets. So she says, in the full video, you'll hear the 5 minutes of gunfire as mentioned in the shorter version, because there was a shorter version that was mostly shared, as proof of what Israel did supposedly. My analysis found that there were 3 different types of rifles used during the shootings. You will be able to hear 3 different distinct sounds, but it's important to know what it is you're hearing and why it matters. And then the next tweet says, now the first video I'll show is of 2 rifles that are most commonly used by Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad terrorists, the AK-47 and the M4. Each of these rifles makes a very distinct sound that isn't always easy to detect, but is very clear when you know what you're listening to. Okay, now I'm not gonna, there's more, and yeah, you can read that thread. I don't know what I'm listening to, so I don't know how to recognize these guns. But you do hear that there's a difference. Now, the difference could be the difference in distance. If you don't know what it is, but but this is a question that even if the facts are not as conclusive as Cheryl claims in this tweet, in this thread, it is a question, again, question that a journalist trying to get to the truth and trying to report the truth and reporting the truth means reporting what you know and saying there's more and we don't know, you would think these questions would be asked.
Yeah, and also if we only heard sort of one type of gunshots, that wouldn't necessarily mean it was just the IDF. We know Hamas has stole some of the IDF weapons, some of the IDF guns. We saw them, especially during the celebration releases of the hostages. We've seen them carrying IDF weapons, so we know they have access to those. So even if it was all the same, there is a chance. Now you also, uh, for people who watched the whole video, as I've said, it's a long gunfight that's happening. Again, that is not answered by anything. The video itself is very nicely doesn't show anything. After. Uh, Basically after he left the vehicle, so we have no idea who is shooting. We have no idea where it's coming from. Uh, well, we know to some extent because you can tell a bit spatially. But yeah, it would have been like really nice if he actually showed a bit more footage rather than hiding. Although it was dark, so maybe we wouldn't be able to tell much. And so yeah, overall, and also like a big question is even sort of how did we even get this video? Did IDF not find this or did not check this, or had they sent it before? So yeah, there's all this that nobody actually wants to look into.
Yeah, thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. Bonnie asks, wasn't the video made from the approaching IDF's point of view? Yet it's reported as being found on the medic's phone. Do we know? No, it is from the medic's phone, right? It's from the car, and we see the other cars in the convoy ahead of him. And actually, this connects to Stedman's question: why was a fire truck needed in the convoy or ambulance response to a stopped vehicle? Suspiciously, too many vehicles in the convoy. I don't know. I mean, there could be reasons why a fire truck and an ambulance would
Well, just to jump in, I believe they were not supposed to go to this vehicle specifically. They were on their way to Rafah. That is the official story. Uh, the reason why they stopped, I think, was that the vehicle that was there was also supposed to be some aid, and they just wanted to check it. Now, I don't know if that's what you normally do, but when you're on the way to somewhere, if you also like randomly, I mean, yeah, I think they would if it was like an icon where they would normally stop here. Uh, but yeah, they were
yeah.
on their way to somewhere else.
And I mean, if they're traveling with sirens and lights, I guess maybe that's. I'm trying to trying to play devil's advocate here, which again with the Palestinians is the most difficult type of devil's advocate. But uh, sirens and lights, maybe it could be explained as in we're showing the IDF that we really are who we say we are. Although again, if terrorists are in an ambulance, they can turn on the sirens and lights. Yeah, there are questions to be asked again about why they stopped, why they all stopped, why so many exited the vehicles, why one of them appears to be armed, why there's then gunshots from apparently different types of weapons. All questions, but they are not mentioned. Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC asks, Razi, did you hear a lawyer's firm in the UK is trying to get Hamas taken off the proscribed terrorist list? Yes, I did hear that. And uh, yeah, I don't know if this is, I mean, if it happens, it's going to become a topic, but yeah, the UK is stepping it up in its support for Hamas. I mean, first of all, what we're talking about now is very big news in the UK. I'm assuming much bigger news than it is in the US for various reasons, but mostly for the reason that the UK wants to show its support for Hamas, but also these two pro-Hamas members of parliament traveling to Israel and surprisingly somehow to many being denied entry. That is still making headlines here. It's also the topic of the reality show in a really bizarre, in some senses, interview. In other senses, a very on brand interview with Emily Thornberry. It's going to be a fun one, by the way. The reality show. Make sure you watch that. Uh, Parting thoughts?
Let's see what happens. I mean, IDF is investigating it more. I want to see what they come up with, what we'll know. Uh, and yeah, hopefully we'll get a bit more clarity on this. But again, it's sort of no matter what they come up with. The worst thing is that there are aid convoys going around Gaza. That are allowed to sort of just do whatever. Again, this is not me saying Palestinians, all of them should be starved to death. It's Israel should impose its control over Gaza and then distribute everything or do whatever it has to do afterwards. If it means controlling the deportation, do that. If it means no, everybody is staying and will impose civilian control by Israel itself, then that's what we do. But this idea of sort of we are present in Gaza, but Hamas is still controlling, so we have to coordinate with them about how aid is distributed. Is simply ridiculous.
Well, much as I dislike that expression, we'll agree to disagree. I do think Israel should starve all of Gaza to death if they don't release the hostages. Even if, like I said, even if they do, then that shouldn't be the end of the war. But aid, yeah, you'll get aid when all the hostages are home, or you'll never get aid. Maybe you don't want to live as much as you want the hostages to die, and that's your choice. But it is all on the Palestinians. The idea of the country that they attacked, feeding them while they're still holding their hostages is such a moral inversion that, yeah, I really very much oppose it and hope that, you know, Israel does what's right. I don't know that that's going to happen, nor do I think that it will. I know that Britain will do what's wrong, and that's going to be, again, a part of our conversation uh, in um, in the reality show. Razi, you have to be creative. Don't use such a narrative in public. No, I have to be honest and I have to be principled, and so do all of us. But unfortunately, so many are either not or they are principled with the absolute worst principles, and they are going to win because if that's the alternative, principally evil or spineless, evil will win. We're not going to let that happen, and we're going to continue fighting the good fight on the reality show. Make sure you tune into that. I'm joined by Jonathan Honig and Michael Kaufman in just a couple of minutes. We'll see you there. Thanks, Daniel, and thanks everybody for watching.